Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Super Tuesday on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with this week's Super Tuesday guest. But as always, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, come on, don't hit that fast forward button. These are all companies I used as an athletic director. I highly recommend that you use them too. So take 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our Super Tuesday guest, and then go and visit these sponsors if you're not already using them. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Huddle for their support of the podcast. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, all of our coaches, just love the tools that Huddle provided. Student athletes love the videos, and our parents love the streaming, but there is so much more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. You know, your students are on social media, and if they're not seeing content that celebrates their accomplishments and also promotes your program, you're missing out on a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com. Their team will have you creating world-class content in seconds, and it's so easy, even I can do it. Mention the podcast, they'll give you a nice discount. That's Gipper.com. We want to say thanks to Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's from Ohio, but my assistant athletic director did, along with thousands of others. And it was a great experience. It's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while you're completing your master's degree, you're also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. To get started, just go to ohio.edu/info/MAA. We want to thank Home Campus. You've heard me say before, Home Campus is a platform you're going to use every single day, whether it's scheduling, communication, rosters. Their student athlete eligibility and clearance platform alone is worth the price. To get started, just go to homecampus.com. That's it. Mention the podcast, homecampus.com. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all their different events, or show off your school's Hall of Fame, then go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touch screen video consoles. It's also a great way to share your school's unique history and brag a little bit about your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. We want to thank our friends at Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and then been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with great success. Our coaches and parents loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. Check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. Go to snapraise.com. We want to thank our good friends at Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. You can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score board. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that demo today. We want to thank Hometown Ticketing. If you didn't know, Hometown is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. But go to hometownticketing.com, mention the podcast. Whether it's more support, more security, or more customization, the Hometown team is here to help you make the best online ticketing solution. And we want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. You know, in my school, we use surveys for everything: kids, coaches, parents, and the information that comes back on these surveys is typically over the top positive, and it'll be the same for you. But you're also going to get to hear from those squeaky wheels that probably come to you anyway, and it'll let you address issues, small issues, before they become a large issue. And having that data in your hand from all those positive returns is tremendously valuable, especially when you're visiting with that frustrated parent, maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Super Tuesday. Very excited today. We're welcoming a new member to our Super Tuesday team. Regular listeners to the podcast will remember a while back we interviewed Katie Pate. She is the Senior Associate Athletic Director at George Mason University. Tremendous background as an athlete, as a coach. She actually coached one of our other regulars, Danielle Bongiorno. And so again, the podcast continues to bring people into the family. Katie, thanks so much for joining our Super Tuesday team. I know it's an incredibly busy time for you. For our listeners, we're recording this on October 9th, so it's going to be pretty timely when you listen to it. Katie, I'm just going to say, what do you have for our listeners on Super Tuesday?
Well, thank you as always, Jake, for having me and being a part of this platform. Yes, Danielle Bonjourner she's a trusted advisor of this group, and I had the distinct opportunity of actually seeing her a few weeks ago as her college basketball coach, Todd Starkey at Kent State, was inducted into the Lenore-Ryan University Hall of Fame, and I was able to be there, and it was the first time for me to see Danielle in person in quite some time. So I think that's actually a perfect a segue into something that I'd like to share today, which is going to come from the heart and is a little bit unconventional. I shared this story with the leadership of the Costello College of Business here at George Mason University late last week. And Jake, I'll appreciate any input or insights on the power of relationships in our business. And we know how impactful they are. We don't know how impactful they are at a level that maybe is above and beyond any expectation we could have. And so I'll share this story with you on this Tuesday, on Super Tuesday. So in the most recent period of time, many of us are well aware of the impacts of Hurricane Helene and its devastating touch points all up and down the eastern seaboard, and in particularly Western North Carolina. And you and I have talked about one of my former footprints was in Boone, North Carolina at Appalachian State University as Associate Athletics Director of Development with the Mountaineers. And part of the work that we do in development, and certainly working in major gifts, this could also be translated into your top recruits in coaching your sport, is how I would equate major gift donors. Requires multiple steps in building these relationships. So there's something called the donor engagement process, and it involves cultivation, solicitation, stewardship, a couple other little things spread into the science of fundraising. But major gift cultivation and those relationships take time. They take energy. For someone like me, it's deeply personal. It's knowing what's your dog's name. It's knowing the history of someone's birthplace. It's all of the things that matter to the donor that I'm working with. What matters to them has to matter to me. And it's my responsibility to uncover those relationships that matter to them as we build and craft a plan for where they want to put their philanthropic passion. Very similar to the recruiting process with your top prospects and trying to learn everything about them. In that mindset, I've come to realize that the time and energy that I personally invest in building those relationships on the development side, the result we're looking for is to sign a major gift. But the result that comes after that is something I didn't know about, Jake, until a hurricane landed in Western North Carolina. My parents live in Western North Carolina. They're in a town called Burnsville. If people have watched the news, they would have seen Burnsville, Spruce Pine, of course, Asheville, Chimney Rock, all these towns and communities that are suffering mightily and have suffered mightily. And as you and I spoke before we got on the call, it came firsthand when my sister and I could not locate our parents because they were cut off from our normal day-to-day means of communication for several hours. And in fact, what turned into hours turned into 3 days. And so I took the 3 days in conjunction with what I was seeing on TV, and I thought we may have lost our parents. But let me tell you what happened in those 3 days. Numerous prayers, thoughts, messages, calls, direct messages, all this outpouring of information after a social media I had put out there, a social media post. But then there was this other bank of messages, Jake, that were from major gift donors that I had worked with at Appalachian State. Many of them had second residences in the area. Many weren't living there locally. They're in other parts of the state. People who had access to helicopters, pickup trucks, chainsaws, good old boys, they'll load up in the truck. We'll get them on a helicopter. We'll get them to this place. We'll put them on a plane, get them to Manassas, and get them back to you. The action of the App State donor base that I had worked with and how they wanted to give back to me in a moment of crisis is, as I shared with Costello, the College of Business last week, I asked that group, I said, close your eyes and think of the person you love the most. And you talk to them on the phone, and then tragedy strikes and you can't get them back on the phone for 3 days. But then you have these people come in and say that they want to help you. Really help you. And I said to Costello and their staff, that is what development means to me. That is how personal I take these relationships in our business, Jake. It is the energy and the effort and the passion that I pour in to the people that I get to work with each and every day. And not because I'm expecting a helicopter on the backside, but it's what we do. That's what we do in sports. That's how we care for people. It is a celebration. It is a fan experience. It is moments of passion and pain. But in moments of crisis, it is the very thread that brings us back to center. I knew about networking. I know about people. These are things that you and I already discussed. I didn't know what happened on the backside. I had no idea that the investment and the passion play on the front end as part of the professional pursuit was going to deliver something for me personally on the back end, so impactful and so powerful. I'll never be able to pay those guys back for their actionable gestures. And even I took another call late last night, and he said, Katie, what you have done for me and my family. And I said, John, he said, I know people are offering help to you all the time. He said, I mean it. Pick up the phone and call me. We will drive up there to see your parents. I don't even work for Appalachian State anymore, but these are now my friends and the people that are important to me in my life. And I say all that to say it, and I don't mean to sound like, serious Sally or whatever on this call today, but how beautiful this process is in sports, regardless of level. And it gets muddy sometimes and it gets yucky sometimes, but underneath it all, the core is the power of relationships. And I really got to see that firsthand last week, and looking forward to hopefully checking on my parents as early as tomorrow, but could not have gotten through it, nor would my heart have gotten through it had it not been the power of the people that I was working for. So I am curious if there's some even small moments that you thought it was going to be one thing, and then what you ended up getting was so much more impactful. What those moments have been for you as well.
Oh, well, first of all, thanks for sharing that with our listeners. You talked about relationships, building relationships, and it's become, I'm going to say in the last, 4, 5, 6 years, to become, I'm going to say, fashionable to talk about being a transformational coach rather than a transactional coach. And what you just described there, we talk about from the coaching standpoint, making it a great experience for the student athlete. But when you do that, when you become that transformational, it comes back to you. Maybe, I'm sure going to say many times during the season, even during the moment, but then many times years later. Full disclosure here, as a young coach and maybe even as an older coach, I was not a transformational coach. That was not my style. I was kind of a hard ass. And I'll hear from kids that I coached, kids. I'll hear from adults that I coached those 30 or 35 years ago. Just a Facebook thing. Hey, coach, thanks a lot. Or, like right now with Hurricane, hey, coach, be safe. Love playing for you. And it tugs at the heart strings, a lot. And for me, it's also the other side. Boy, I wish I would have done a better job as a coach back then. And even with my own kids, I was, kind of a hard ass to my kids too. I was more of a coach than a dad too many times. But that's what you just shared. I can't think of a better live it out example for all of us. And again, talk about transactions, in the cold, analytical, actuary world, hey, give me money and we're going to buy a building.
Mhm.
But you just showed it so much more than that. Okay. Does any of that make sense?
It all makes sense. And and I'm glad you brought up, and really I guess the conversation has to do with transformational versus transactional. There's a great clip, if viewers want to go back and scroll through it. College Game Day last Saturday, Nick
Yep.
Saban gave a lecture on this, as far as I'm concerned. And his valid self-analysis, Jake, is exactly what you just said. I know for a fact that there are moments I can go back and think, man, I would have done it so different now. But dial it all the way back to the beginning of the conversation and talking about a student athlete like Danielle Bongiorno that I had the opportunity to coach. You would have thought a day hadn't passed when she and I saw each other a month ago, and all the days that were tough and difficult. Uh, Knowing that there were seeds planted and there was a relationship forged, and to get to see her and be successful. And I do call them kids. I'm like you, I don't know what else to call them. But in the smallest sense, and then of course in the gravity of a situation like Hurricane Helene. Um, my preference is transformational. There's no doubt about it now. And the residual benefits on my head and heart are so strong. And I think something that I crave, the more I invest in the relationship, the better I feel. I feel like it's the right thing to do. And that doesn't mean that there's not tough times, even on the administrative side. But I can put my head on the pillow at night and know, investing in someone else's experience and providing those positive and passionate moments make a difference in every aspect of my life.
No, no, absolutely. And again, it's just another reminder, there's a lot of different ways to coach. But hey, why not make it a positive experience
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
kid and
absolutely.
for the coach? Okay.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Katie, love to keep you on longer. If one of our listeners wanted to reach out, pick your brain a little bit, and listeners, you have a tremendous resource here. I'm even going to share this little nugget on Katie's LinkedIn profile. She leads with, I can beat you in a game of horse. And
True,
I haven't had
true.
the chance to test that out, but yeah, I know she's a much better hooper than I was. So, Katie, how do our listeners get in touch with you?
Yeah. So two best ways are on LinkedIn. Just Katie Pate. Look for anything that says George Mason University, and I'll pop up on there. And then also on X, Twitter, uh, direct message at Coach Katie Pate. That's where I usually get a lot of messages and things. I'll respond very quickly and look forward to setting up Zoom discovery calls or telephone calls with folks that just want to talk shop.
Okay. And Katie does have a very strong Twitter game. Okay. Make sure you follow her. Katie, thanks again for sharing. All the best with the coming winter sports season and the rest of the school year. And hopefully we're going to be able to connect in person somewhere down the road.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jake.
For listeners, we want to say thanks to you. And just a reminder, we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on Super Tuesday on the Educational AD Podcast. And hey, before we go, let's not forget about our sponsors. Gipper.com, Home Campus. You can find them at homecampus.com. Ohio University's Online Masters. That's ohio.edu/info/MAA. Huddle. Go to huddle.com. Snap Raise. You'll find them at snapraise.com. Sideline Interactive. That's sidelineinteractive.com. Athletic Surveys. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Vital Signs Wall of Fame. vitalsignswalloffame.com. And Hometown Ticketing. You'll find them at hometownticketing.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on the podcast.